How's everybody doing? Okay, so I want to address a comment, a really good one actually, that was on one of the uploads where somebody made a statement that I wouldn't call this a diorama, rather I'd call it a shelf layout. And I welcome questions like this or comments because it's a good one. And I think it's a diorama, and I also think it's a shelf layout. I also think it's a small model railroad, shelf switcher, whatever you want to call it. And the reason why is because the term diorama from its origin has changed quite a bit in modernity, right? Like, let me give you just a quick brief history. The actual diorama itself was an invention of the 18th century. It was an art form that was used to convey a moment in time in history before the advent of the camera. There were no cameras back then. The only way to preserve an image or to capture a moment would be through a painting or an engraving or a sculpture. So the term diorama would be something that you'd go to a museum and you'd see like a big life-size display of taxidermy with a pride of lions, looking across the Serengeti with a roaming herd of antelope off in the distance with a beautiful dramatic backdrop painting. So the idea of diorama was it was a story in the round with a painted backdrop. And when you fast forward to the post-war decades, like I'd say the 70s and 80s, there were three pivotal people that really brought the art form of the diorama in miniature to our consciousness. And that was Ray Anderson, Shepard Payne, and Francois Verlinden. Ray Anderson was doing small miniature models of historical events, like the signing of a peace treaty, let's say, in miniature with Hysterex figurines, beautiful hand-painted and posed figurines. He'd do things like, the native hunter going down the river, with the big cascading rock wall, hunting, coming around the corner. They were just, the composition was flawless. So you'd have one of a hunter, walking on a trail on a precipice. They're just very dramatic and really, really neat moments, like stories, right? And then there was Shepard Payne, who, did a lot of work for Monogram. He, helped promote a lot of armor models back in the day by building these dramatic dioramas of, like a knocked out half track with soldiers jumping out. I mean, these guys were the best at their craft. And then there was Francois Verlinden later on. This is the 70s, 80s, who took it to a whole new level with, aftermarket resin figures and parts and details and, books to follow. And it really, encouraged the whole community. And the diorama took on a whole new meaning. It was this miniaturized version of what it originally was. And that's all really a diorama is. I mean, you can define a small layout like this as a diorama easily. It meets all the criteria. This one in particular is not finished yet. It has lots of work yet to go in terms of details. But when there's no animation, it's a static display. And it's just like any other model with a theme. It's a small view in time, space, and history. When you run a train through it, it just becomes a dynamic diorama. So, yes, you could argue that maybe it's not a diorama and that rather it's just a shelf layout, and that's fine. Like, I'm okay with either way. Like it's a great question, and it's probably one that will never have a clear, concise answer. I think it's just up to the individual, really, and how they see it and how they build it and convey it. But at the end of the day, I hope that it encourages people to have another look at, the whole hobby in a new way, maybe, in terms of what's possible, like the impact it can have, and the immersion factor can be increased. Like many modelers in the UK, for example, who I have high respect for, understand this. Like they have these small little apartments where they build these little layouts, and they're just superb in detail, and they would agree, like they would call them dioramas. So it's a great question. I think it's just viewed differently here in North America than maybe in Europe because the diorama concept came and evolved from Europe to begin with. So yeah, so all I want to do is just encourage you to keep pushing, the threshold of your modeling practice. Don't be afraid to just loosen up and let it be just a way that you want to express yourself and the art of the model railroad, because it is an art form when you think about it. I mean, it's a multimedia art form. I mean, it involves everything from electronics to hand painting to model building to scenery to three-dimensional uh, objects, lighting, animation, yeah, just really enjoy it for what it is, and I really enjoy it as a type of art form in the definition of a diorama. So just in closing, I just want to thank all my subscribers that have signed on the last while. I want to put a shout out to Wilmer. He gave me a plug on one of his shows. I found out just yesterday, I think. So thank you, Wilmer, very much for featuring Boomer Dioramas. And I hope that future content will address areas that people want to know about. Feel free to, make a comment or a couple suggestions, or, that maybe something that you might want to see. I don't know if I can do it. I might be able to because I'm on a tight schedule as well. And with producing content and modeling, it's not much time in the day. But anyway, God bless everyone, and keep at her. Have fun with it, right? Enjoy it for what it is because it's a great hobby. Okay, thanks for watching.